Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Insightful Principles. I'm here with one of my good friends, Jeff Knight, and I have known this guy since our college days. We both attended the same university in Ohio, and Jeff has always been a sharp guy. Now, Jeff, he actually studied finance at Bowling Green, and he is currently working as a financial wellness coach for a startup called Task Human, which specializes in helping people across the world with financial education and coaching. Jeff also works with financial coaching for a nonprofit in Chicago called Metropolitan Family Services, where he helps revitalize low income households and manage their finances. So we'll get a chance to dive into that throughout this conversation today. But with that being said, welcome, Jeff. I'm glad that you're here on the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Of course. The first thing I really wanted to ask is, can you share your background for the audience and how you also got started in financial coaching?
Yeah, man. So, like you said, you and I went to school together, and when I went to Bowling Green State University, I didn't know. Well, I had an idea. I wanted to major in sports management, and I eventually ended up switching and thinking about other potential majors, and thought about writing for a while, journalism. Then I eventually settled on just business in general. So even within business, I was trying to figure out which specialization I was going to go down. So I thought about marketing for a little bit. Um, I may have given like a brief thought to like entrepreneurship, and then I read this book in undergrad called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that just kind of had me really interested and intrigued with the whole investing space. Then after that, I was like, you know what? It might be cool to just learn about what to do with money. And then I started taking some finance. I took a finance class there, and it was tough. It was tough, but then I eventually got into the financial planning courses within that finance major at Bowling Green. We're one of the rare schools who actually have the financial planning curriculum that allows you to pretty much sit for the CFP exam. So I took the took a financial planning course, an investment course. I took a retirement planning course, insurance courses, and I just fell in love with all of the subject matter, man. It was just super cool. And I think the thing that was really interesting was the fact that a lot of this stuff was applicable to my own life. And even if I didn't decide to become a financial planner or financial coach, I would just have a lot of useful knowledge on my own. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was at Bowling Green, I actually studied sport management, and for a long time, even during those 4 years, I was always just fascinated about the business of sports. And my approach was trying to find a way to get into finance in the business realm of sports. And I totally agree with you. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, that shifted my mindset on just how to approach money and just really looking at it from two different perspectives. When you look at, the rich dad that was investing in things, he wasn't trading time for money, or rather where his money was working for him. And then you had the poor dad where he was working a job for, his whole life. He was trading time for money, and he was really comfortable when it came to having that pension, having a salary. So it really gives you two broad
Hmm.
perspectives, and it was a very interesting book, and it's a book that I still apply to my life today. So I definitely can agree when it comes to as I moved on from Bowling Green and started learning more about financial literacy and insurance and just financial planning. It made me more intrigued as well to want to develop my knowledge. Now, from your roles of what you're currently doing now in your career, when you're coaching someone through their finances, what are some fundamentals or principles that you focus on?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So every time I go into a coaching session, I try to make sure that they understand, to me, in my opinion, the key things that are really just important to having a successful or solid financial foundation, I should say. So I usually say, You want to make sure that you have some sort of written budget. We want to make sure that we have a spending plan to make sure that we know where all of our dollars are going. So I say budgeting. I mentioned that emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Then I also like to touch on retirement planning. So just putting away maybe 10 to 15% towards retirement, and then having a plan for your debt. So we kind of work around those. And then obviously we get in a little bit more specific things. They have questions about specific investments or they want education around those things. We talk about them. But those budgeting, emergency fund, putting money away for retirement, and then managing your debt properly, figuring out what strategies are most beneficial for you. Those are the things that I think are key. And I try to touch on those on every session.
Yeah, the budgeting is so key. I think that I read a book called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas
hmm
Stanley. I'm not sure if you heard of that book,
I have it. I haven't
but
read it yet. I haven't read it
it's
yet.
a great book, man, because he really is talking about just how millionaires go about their finances and people that don't accumulate that much wealth, what the difference is. And one of the biggest differences was budgeting. And he said that when it comes to people that are very wealthy, that are millionaires, they spend about 80 to 90% monthly focusing on their budget, planning their retirement, managing their debt, looking at their savings. And I think that it's all about setting a proper game plan. If you don't have a set budget of the amount of money that you're going to spend every month, you're just going to move vicariously. Like you're not, your money's going to have a mind of its own. You're not controlling your money, but rather the money is going to control you. So when you have that set budget, and having that emergency fund is so important from a standpoint of, you don't want to have to always rely on pulling your money out of what's invested in the market. And I think a lot of people, they find themselves, they may try to use their investment accounts as a savings account, and you don't necessarily want to do that. Like you said, 3 to 6 months of expenses, have that emergency fund, and then have the retirement planning separate, so that way you're still building wealth, and then you also have that foundation of, if emergency happens, you can take care of the emergency or whatever necessity that's needed. So I think those are great fundamentals to focus on. And I wanted to get your experiences with, working with Task Human. I know with everything with the pandemic, it really has changed the way we work and interact with each other, from Zoom meetings to even meeting your doctor online. So can you talk about how Task Human has made it a lot easier and accessible for you to help people with their finances virtually across the world?
Yeah, man. So Task Human is a startup. They are um, a startup that basically works as it's a it works they work as like an employee benefit for companies and universities that are out there. So these people get free access to all of these great coaches, and financial coaches are one of the coaches that they have access to. But yeah, working remotely and being able to connect with individuals from all across the world. I get a lot of you know clients who call me from European countries, and it's really neat. It just kind of broadens my perspective, and I get to see some of the local challenges that they have out there, and kind of compare that to what's going over here in the U.S. But it feels good. I try to make sure that I'm coming there with that same professionalism that I would come with if they were sitting right in front of me. But it's been great, and the pandemic has really exposed some opportunities that are out there for us to connect to people like this. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's great to see how, I think one thing about our field, it really allow us to be able to help anyone across the world, or you're able to do everything online, virtually, whether it's Zoom or whatever video platform. And it's great to see that with Task Human, you're able to see different perspectives with people, across the country in Europe. Their approach to money, may be a lot different, than here in the U.S. I know some differences in some countries is, their healthcare is paid for, rather than here in the U.S. we have to pay for our own healthcare. So those are some differences that I see when it comes to just finances. When some people in those countries don't have to really worry about paying health insurance, paying different things around medical benefits like they would here. So I know there's some good differences that you have seen working with different backgrounds. Now I know you also have been getting some great exposure working with Metropolitan Family Services, helping low income households, and I wanted to get your perspective on how is it with teaching financial education in those communities, and what are some of those challenges that you have with families, and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's great. It's always wonderful to be able to kind of just educate individuals from those communities, and I think one of the biggest challenges is really just making them aware of just, I guess, financial concepts that they may not have been privy to. So I think doing that can be a I mean it's great. I think you know you get an opportunity to see quick changes. You get an opportunity to see like the light bulb go off where they feel like, oh wow, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So that's really neat. Um, but yeah, I would say some of the challenges are just, you're dealing with, sometimes you have individuals who are going through some complex uh, financial turmoil. You know what I mean? So you may have to pull some credit reports, or you may have to figure out like who this person should contact as far as um, dealing with this discrepancy on their credit report, and maybe thinking about, getting legal aid for certain situations. So those things can be tricky, but nonetheless, it's a great challenge. And as far as educating them, uh it's been great so far. It's been great so far. Right now, I'm putting together some workshops that I think will cater to that class. And I have a workshop on budgeting that I just created. I have a workshop on saving money. I have a workshop on credit. And those are things. I have clients who are already, with the task human. I have clients who are, already pretty well off and kind of in that maintaining their wealth mode. But it's also cool to have that challenge of working with people who are trying to make that upward movement with their finances. So I get a wide opportunity, or a wide set of experiences, I should say.
Yeah, I think what you're doing with low income households is very important because our communities need it the most. You hear it all the time about whether it's food deserts in certain neighborhoods and communities that may not have access to different foods when it comes to their health, but more importantly, there also are financial challenges as well, where they may not be exposed to as much as financial literacy in the school systems in those areas or just within their family. So whenever we can be able to help these communities, and what you're doing with the workshops, with the budgeting, the saving, also just, credit is very necessary. And, I salute you with doing that and keep up the great work. I know it's got to be uh, a very good feeling to help people, get change their mind frame when it comes to finances. Because I think a lot of times, man, it comes to the mindset. A lot of times if you have these poverty beliefs that you've grew up with for so long, sometimes it's hard to break out of that thinking unless you actually speak with someone that can help you develop more, abundance type of thinking, and just being able to really change your circumstances. It always, to me, starts with the mind. So I think that's really great work. Now, when it comes to teaching financial literacy, can you kind of explain like what that means to you, especially to people in the Black community?
Yeah, financial literacy is really just providing people with a baseline knowledge of financial concepts that will help them live financially healthy lives. So it's just that baseline knowledge, man. Yeah, that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a baseline knowledge. I think that when it comes to financial literacy, I just think of it being understanding the fundamentals and the principles of being able to be just financially literate, but having the tools and the skill sets to be able to take care of like you said, just the basics in life, whether it's budgeting, saving, making sure that you're managing, paying off debt. And I think that a lot of times we try to complicate it, but really, that's really the foundation of financial literacy. And then you get into the other things when you talk about building wealth and retirement planning, insurance planning, and all of those other things. But I just think it's knowing the necessities, like you said. And I did also want to ask, like, when it comes to financial wellness and financial planning, like in your perspective and just from your background, what would you say are the main differences between the two? Rather, if you're coaching someone with their finances in comparison to actually putting together like a financial plan.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I think a financial plan encompasses me pretty much, I'm giving them financial advice, but at the same time, I'm also figuring out how their goals intersect with their current financial circumstances. And I'm pretty much in the driver's seat as far as creating that plan for them and almost in a sense implementing that plan myself. So it's almost like they're giving me the keys in the financial planning scenarios, and then I drive the car with them. In that financial coaching situation, it's more of like I'm the driver's ed instructor. You know what I mean? So like they come and they want the tools, so they want to know like, man, how do I drive this car? How do I get started on my financial plan? And I'm there to really educate them, but I'm also acting as a coach. And when I think about financial coaching, that's where I come in and I'm trying to motivate those individuals to make those behavioral changes. You talked about it earlier, how it's a lot of this stuff is mindset, man. And I would argue that most of the financial turmoil or financial challenges that people face are due to just trying to break, maybe negative habits, man. Like, I think one of the best books that I read of 2020 or 2021, I forgot which year, man. It's all a blur,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. He talks about how
I heard about that book
this
too.
man, excellent, excellent book, man. One of my favorite finance books, money books in recent memory. But yeah, man, a lot of this stuff has to do with our mindset, our psychology, and just figuring out how those biases that we have can almost take us off track sometimes. So I think with the coaching, that's my job is to kind of expose those biases and just try to do a lot of work as far as helping to facilitate real behavioral changes around some of these financial matters.
Yeah, it's almost like, with the financial coaching, it's more of like a coach of a sports team. You're calling up you're making coming up with the plays, but then you're help guiding that player or that family put those plays into action to be able to bring changes to their life. And I think that when it's financial planning, like you said, you're more of, you're looking at their goals and you're trying to put a plan together that can allow them to accomplish those goals. And it definitely has differences, but I still think that even when you're doing a financial plan, in a sense you're still kind of coaching the person, because they may not know about different insurance planning or a will or a trust when it comes to estate planning. You got to kind of guide them on different things that they can do to plan for the future. So I think that both have similarities and they also have differences. Now, like, speaking on just financial planning, I think that with myself working in the financial services industry and with you having a background with the coaching, and also when it comes to financial wellness, you really understand the importance of developing your knowledge and crafting your expertise. So, can you describe any accreditations or licenses that have helped you as a financial coach? And do you have any plans of acquiring any more accreditations in the future?
Yeah, so prior to working at Metropolitan Family Services, I was working at State Farm as a financial coach. And there they wanted me to have my all of my life, my property, health, casualty, and life insurance licenses. So that was helpful. And they also wanted me to have my Series 6 securities license as well. But going forward, man, I think something that will just kind of continue to make me more credible in the marketplace. I'm going for that CFP. So I'm actually in the certified financial planner designation. So I'm in the process of studying for that right now as we speak. So yeah, I mean, I think that will obviously I've taken all the classes that are required. So I have a little bit of baseline level of knowledge, but I'm refreshing things that I learned back in college and everything. But you know, I think with that, it does a great job of making sure that you have a broad knowledge base across all of these different subjects. And I just hopefully that gives customers and clients more confidence when working with me.
Yeah, it definitely it gives you a higher level of expertise and being able to develop your knowledge when it comes to financial planning. And I'm actually working on the same thing myself. Like you said, I do have my life licenses, life health life and health licenses, and wanting to get my Series 7 and working towards getting the CFP as well, because it's going to allow me to be able to serve the clients in the best way possible, suitable to their needs. And then I also wanted to ask, like, how do you feel like when it comes to conversations? I don't know if you've had this, within your career or even with State Farm, but when it comes to insurance planning, I know myself, like I always tell people that, that's one of the most important things you can have. That's really when you get out of, setting the budget, having the emergency fund, planning with the retirement. I think that you do have to have proper insurance planning, because a lot of people, they don't think it's a necessity. But I would love to get your perspective, someone working in the industry. How do you feel when it comes to just insurance planning?
Yeah, man, I think insurance is what protects your money. So, those things grow your money, investments and budgeting gives you a more sense of control. But when it comes to protecting your money, insurance is crucial. I think a large percentage of people who end up filing for personal bankruptcies I think these individuals are those who have dealt with large medical bills, you know what I mean? That it's just kind of really set them back. So it's almost like when a client comes to me, you know what I mean? And hopefully, they have some sort of full-time role where health insurance comes with it. But like you said, man, that is just as important as any of those other foundational pieces. And it's hopefully it's a given. But yeah, you're right, man. Like not having health insurance, and there are a lot of people who I know who kind of skimp on that, man. But not having health insurance is key. If it's necessary, having life insurance is really key. And like I said, it really is there to protect your wealth. Without having insurance, like those catastrophic losses can really set us back and kind of destroy what we've been working for all these years. So it's super imperative that we have our necessary insurance coverages.
Yeah, you it's a necessity for sure, man. And even with life insurance, I think about, we have all of these other insurances on our phones, on our laptops, on our cars. And you can have all of that and not have life insurance. You gotta really you gotta make sure your life is a priority above all that. All those other things are important as well. Specifically car insurance, but life insurance, you don't want to play with your life. And I think that, like you said, it protects your wealth and it keeps you covered and your family covered if something were to happen. So I agree with that. And so I also wanted to ask you, do you have any aspirations of like creating your own financial coaching business? If so, can you kind of explain what you will want to do, sometime in the future?
Yeah, I've thought about it, man, and I've thought about maybe having some sort of combination of financial planning and financial coaching. I've thought about just strictly doing financial coaching. And I really just want to see where the industry goes and what's still around. I mean, obviously, I think both will be around for a long time, but I'm just really curious to see like how automation changes the landscape of the industry. And but I think both would be worth pursuing. You know what's crazy? There's even something out there called financial therapy, man. And there's something called financial therapy where people are meeting with financial therapists. I even think that sounds really neat and cool. But one of the reasons why, I want to kind of continue to just up my education is I'm really interested in the psychology of our money decisions. So I think with both of those, that would be something that I'm really like excited to kind of tap into. It's just like making sure that clients understand like the psychological reasons why they're making some of these decisions. And I think with coaching or planning, I can do that. But there are a couple of different designations out there that kind of give you that psychological money financial advice piece. I think one of them may be a behavioral financial advisor. There's one that's called a certified financial behavioral specialist or something like that. But yeah, they're out there, man, and I think it'd be cool to kind of integrate that learning into a future practice on my own. So yeah.
It's crazy. Did that actually led into my next question? I was going to talk about what the future of financial services will be and your perspective on it. And I think we're kind of talking on it on how you have financial therapy, you have the psychology of investing, where that's a big opportunity because back to what we talked about at the beginning, there's a lot of, you know, money beliefs that people have, good or bad, different, investment bias and traps that people will need to avoid. Where having that necessary financial therapy is very necessary, man. And I actually, I don't know if you, this is a great they're a financial educating platform called Barron's. They send articles, they have webinars and everything, and I'm part of their they send me different webinars every week. And I actually listened to a workshop about a couple weeks ago, and it talked about the psychology of investing, and they were talking about all of these different beliefs from just money status, how people use money to show off. They're using it to just kind of show off what they have, to show a status, to show like they have, whatever they're wanting to promote to society. And there's just so many other ways that we interact with money. Is really deep, man, when you think about the psychology. And I've thought of that as well. Like when it comes to financial planning, I want to be able to have those conversations where we're really getting in the mind and figuring out, what is your relationship with money? Because I feel like we all have a relationship with money, and if you don't know how to manage it effectively, it can create, negative habits if you don't approach it in the right way. So I definitely think, man, that is the future. But what else do you see as far as the future of financial services other than that with the psychology of investing?
Yeah, I think the reason why I think it's important that we kind of move on that opportunity to help people kind of keep their head in the game when different situations are potentially about to throw them into financial chaos. Maybe they want to jump out of the market at the wrong time, or maybe they aren't really prioritizing saving. I think one of the reasons why that may need to be a focus is because I think in the future, I think the investing component of finance, I think that'll probably be more just solved, man. I don't think investing, my theory, I don't think investing is going to be um that much of a problem to solve. Honestly, I think with all of the information out here, as far as looking at past returns and seeing what things work for most investors, I think for a lot of people, a lot of financial planners would argue that that's pretty much been solved. And right now, we need to probably, I think what we'll do is in the financial planning space, I think we'll lean more into that comprehensive planning. So making sure that they have the right insurance, making sure that their estate planning is in order, making sure that they aren't like getting overwhelmed by market news, making sure that they're just prioritizing the right things and they're being realistic. I think those are the key things that we'll have to probably lean more into versus actually coming up with the perfect portfolio, because I think for a lot of people, man, that problem has pretty much been solved as far as what to invest in. I think it's been pretty simple. So yeah, I think that's where things will get a little different going forward.
Yeah, I definitely see more of a comprehensive approach, just looking at everything from, insurance, investment, retirement, estate, tax planning, just looking at it from an overall perspective. Another shift that I see myself is I think a lot of the financial planning, when you look at a lot of advisors in the past, and even now, they've always had that they always have had that asset allocation of 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds. And my approach when it comes to that is, as you're getting older, you don't necessarily need to have a certain portion in bonds, because the way bonds work is they have that maturity date. And if you're at a retirement age of, let's say, 65 years old, and you still
Hmm.
have another 15 or 20 years to live, you don't necessarily want all of your money in bonds that are slowly growing. They're not really giving you much growth. So I think
Hmm.
that financial advisors are going to get away from the 60-40 approach. I mean, me personally, if I was a financial planner, I would tell people that you should have at least like 80% in stocks. I'm a big proponent of commodities such as gold, silver, precious metals. So I would say 10% in commodities and
Hmm.
10% in alternative assets such as cryptocurrency, because
Hmm.
that's where the world is going. When I look at decentralized technology with the blockchain. When you look
Hmm.
at commodities, you're still getting that hedge against inflation with gold and silver, and
Hmm.
then you still have the stocks that are giving you, growth and value over time. But I think that bonds conversation, I just think that's not really necessarily, that's an approach that worked maybe 30, 40 years ago. But even as we work with other people that are our age and that are older, that's one thing that I see a shift in. How do you feel about that, like that approach?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think that people are becoming, I guess, more open to the idea of being more concentrated in equities as we get older, more so than they were in the past. The cryptocurrency wave is interesting, man. I am really curious to see where that goes. I like what you said about putting, something in there, maybe, just to see what happens. But, you know, even with the cryptocurrency, man, like I like to make sure that like my clients just really understand. One thing that's key to me is understanding the difference between investing and then speculating. So I think a lot of the cryptocurrency bets are more of a speculation, but at the same time I make sure that my clients also know that hey, you can make a lot of money with speculating. Like you can make a ton of money, you can lose a ton of money. You can do that same thing can apply with investing as well. Um, However, I think like a lot of people who will recommend like some of these cryptocurrencies out here will say, hey, you don't want to invest more than you aren't willing to lose. But, I think the underlying blockchain technology that's behind like some of the Doge, the Bitcoins and these different cryptocurrencies, I think that's here to stay. As far as like the future of decentralized currency and like if that will really truly catch on and be a consistent medium of like just exchange every day as far as like paying for everyday items at the grocery store. And I'm just sitting back eating my popcorn and watching to see what happens, man. I don't know, man. Like I really don't know. I think the decentralized versus centralized, I can understand the I can understand the desire to have a decentralized currency. How practical it really is for the long haul, I'm still just wondering. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. I mean, I've done a lot of research on the cryptocurrency, and I think that if I'm sitting down with a client, I'm gonna make sure they understand the difference between what exactly cryptocurrency is in comparison to a stock or a commodity, because it's an education thing. And I think that a lot of things I've seen in the community when it comes to cryptocurrencies is that a lot of people are feeling the need to try to jump in because they have the fear of missing out. They have that FOMO
Yeah,
approach, and that's not a good approach to have. I think the cryptocurrencies that I've currently invested in, I've took the time to do the necessary research, and I understand the purpose of the technology. And I think that you got to put the work in, put the time in, because if you're just investing in it because you're hearing a tweet or you're hearing whatever someone is telling you to invest in it, you got to be very you got to watch out for that, because you're right, it's a lot of speculation. But I do think, like, when you look at how the mainstream adoption of Bitcoin, I mean, there's many company or many big financial institutions that are instituting Bitcoin ETFs. They're allowing their clients to actually purchase different ways to get exposure to the crypto market. So it's going to be very interesting. That the biggest thing I worry about myself is regulation and taxes. I think that when you start talking about how this type of cryptocurrency can take away from what we use as a current fiat currency with the US dollar, when that becomes a challenge, when crypto becomes a threat to that, of taking over that's when I think the government's going to come in. And I don't know what they'll do, man. They'll say, it's illegal for you to own Bitcoin or Ethereum, which I feel like that would be crazy if they did. But you can never count the government out. When they feel threatened, they're going to do anything they can to make sure that their US dollar remains dominant in society. And I think taxes, Biden has already came out and said how he's going to increase capital gains tax. So I think that those
yeah,
all present challenges. And like you said, man, I'm definitely, curious of how that's going to bring changes to the fintech world. But I'm definitely interested in. I understand that I'm going to continue to invest in it, because I really see us moving in more into a digital world where everything is going to be done through this blockchain network. So it's very interesting. It's very
and
interesting
and
for
you
sure.
see you see Elon, man. He
Oh
just
yeah,
stopped Tesla from accepting Bitcoin
Bitcoin.
because of the environmental ramifications that come with the mining. So I've been hearing
Oh
about that
yeah.
for a while. Like, apparently, so like it's just, to me, like, combination of like apparently I haven't done my enough research into it, but
Yeah.
apparently, like, the environmental impact is crazy. And
Yeah.
like you said, like, I don't I think that there will be some sort of regulation with it. So
Mhm.
um I'm just, like I said, I'm just sitting back with my
Yeah.
popcorn, man, just watching the show to see what happens, man. But
Yeah.
I do think the blockchain technology is here to stay. And yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the environmental ramifications. You right, man. It's the mining. It takes a lot of power to do those, to be able to mine Bitcoin. So it's a lot of challenges for sure, man. And I did hear that with Elon coming out. So we'll see how that affects other companies with their decision making that are already using Bitcoin. So it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
So as we're coming to a close, I wanted to, how can the listeners and the viewers connect with you and also learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, man. So, man, I don't have a page dedicated solely to my financial coaching or financial planning. However, they can always find me on LinkedIn. You can just simply connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Jeffrey Knight on LinkedIn, and yeah, I'm always looking for new connections, and yeah, I welcome all of that. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
And how can they find you on the Task Human app if someone's looking into wanting to get coaching? Do they just search you up on the
Yeah,
app?
Yeah, man, you can download the Task Human app on your, I believe, iPhone or Android. And I am one of the financial coaches on there. So yes, they can literally just hop on the app and then find me, and then they can set up an appointment with me. So yeah, it's it's cool.
That's all.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, everyone, definitely check out Jeff. Take a look at his coaching that he's doing on Task Human. He's definitely providing a lot of great insight, and I know it will be tremendously valuable for all of you out there. And definitely connect with him on LinkedIn. And as for insightful principles, if you all can continue to like, subscribe, and share this video. If you're listening on a podcast, please rate, leave a review. That definitely helps. Also, subscribe on any audio platform that you're using, and continue to share this message of financial literacy amongst your family and friends. And I'll put all of Jeff's information in the show notes as well as mine. And I did want to tell you all, thank you for tuning in. And Jeff, thank you so much again. I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, Kevin. This was fun, man. We should do this again.
Oh, certainly. We definitely will. And you take care.
All right, you too, man.